You ever feel trapped by others' expectations? And why do 92% of the people hide their true selves? Discover how to keep your flame alive before society snuffs it out. We're going to get into it. Let's get it. Welcome. First of all, welcome. This is Unsolicited Perspectives. I'm your host, Bruce Anthony, here to lead the conversation in important events and topics that are shaping today's society. Join the conversation and follow us wherever you get your audio podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for our video podcasts and YouTube exclusive content. Rate, review, like, comment, share. Share with your friends, share with your family. Hell, even share with your enemies. On today's episode, I'll be interviewing Dr. Nicole D. Bradford. Dr. Nicole is a dynamic speaker, educator, entrepreneur, and author. We're going to be talking about her life and her work. But that's enough of the intro. Let's get to the show. I'm excited about today's guest because you know how I feel about authenticity and being your true self and becoming your true self, making sure that you don't hide who you are and making sure that you can authentically be who you are. There's nothing more freeing than being absolutely who you are, not worried about what other people think of you because you're happy with it yourself. And so I'll be talking to Dr. Nicole Bradford today. She's a PhD academic, a dynamic motivational speaker, a visionary founder of Maintain the Flame brand. And that's an empowering apparel line and coaching community built to celebrate authenticity and help you live your life to the fullest and to your terms. She's also the author of My Soul Is Not for Sale, Removing the Lies, the Labels, and the Limitations. It's a candid memoir and guide that walks you through overcoming trauma, breaking free from conformity, and speaking your truth, even when it costs you. Look, this is what this show is all about. It's all about giving you unique perspectives from people that maybe you wouldn't come across in your life, hearing their story, maybe finding something that you can identify with in their story, picking up something, learning, and growing from it. I am of the strongest belief, and I live by this creed, that you have to continuously evolve, continuously grow until the day that you take your last breath. You are never your full, complete person. You've never completed the journey. There's never going to be a point in time where you're in your 40s and 50s just say, I done done everything. No, there's always room for growth. There's always room for evolution. There's always room for forgiving yourself. What I mean by that is sometimes we hold ourselves to a higher standard than we hold others to. Some of us. Some of us don't hold ourselves to a high enough standard, but some of us hold ourselves to a higher standard and we're really hard on ourselves for making mistakes, for not accomplishing things that we feel like we should accomplish, not completing things in a timely manner, not being where we feel like we should be in our life. I hear that a lot now from people that are in my peer group that are hitting their 40s. It's just like, I didn't do what I needed to do. And I have to remind them, look, you are very successful. You are very accomplished. And you need to stop living your life on other people's expectations and live your life the way you want to live it. And if you take a step back and examine all the things that you've done in your life, you'll realize I have done a lot. I have accomplished a lot, and I should be proud of what I accomplished. I should be proud of who I am. There's nothing more freeing. There's nothing more satisfying than being happy with where you are and happy with how you got there. And Dr. Nicole is going to help us on that journey because a lot of people are not living their authentic selves. A lot of people are trapped by other people's expectations. And through Dr. Nicole's story, through her work, my hope for you, for those people who are struggling, and myself, that I'm not completely the person that I want to be. As I said, we're all evolving every day. My hope is in this conversation, we all grow. So without further ado, Dr. Nicole D. Bradford. So, as I said at the top, I'm here with Dr. Nicole D. Bradford. She's an author, a dynamic speaker, an educator, author of My Soul is Not for Sale. She also leads the Maintain the Flame brand, which is an empowering apparel that celebrates authenticity. You know how much I care about authenticity. Dr. Nicole, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I've been looking forward to it. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, look, it's my pleasure. And I like to start off all interviews with the very first question. And the very first question is, let's go to the beginning. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing, your early years, your family dynamics, and we are going to get to some of the challenges you faced in your early childhood. But let's just start from the beginning, just a little bit about your background and your family dynamics before we get to some of the more challenges you faced as a youth.
Okay. Well, just a little bit about me. I'm originally from Austin, Texas. And you know how what they say, keep Austin weird. And so growing up, I was the youngest of six kids. My mother had five girls and one boy. So, of course, a lot of people always ask me, y'all had so much fun and all those people in the house. How was it? Truth be told, I was an oops baby. My mother had her tubes tied. So everyone else is kind of back to back to back stair step. And I kind of was on there at the end by myself with my other sister that was a couple of years ahead of me. So we had a normal family. I was very energetic. I've always been super, super energetic and hyper my entire life. I've tried to be someone that looks at a situation with a different perspective, but I've always been different than everyone else. So I've tried to cheer people up. I wanted to keep people excited, I guess, hence my whole life. I've been a cheerleader on the other side. And so cheering other people, not only during sports and things of that nature, but in life. And so I try to utilize my energy and excitement in a positive way to make a difference in the lives of others.
So we're not going to call that an oops baby. We're going to call that a miracle
Okay.
baby because the tubes
Yes.
were tied and
Yes.
you came on the scene. So that's not a oops, that's a miracle because there was a football player that had his, had got the snip snip. So he couldn't
Mhm.
have any more children and had two more
Yes,
children. That's what we call a blessing.
that's right.
Um so you're the youngest of six.
Yes.
Five girls, one
Mhm.
boy. Where's the boy in this flow of six?
Number 2.
Okay, so he's not the oldest, not in the middle, only boy, number 2.
Yes.
I've seen so many different scenarios, especially in families that have multiple girls,
Mhm.
that those in the middle tend to have differences of opinions in life and complicated relationships with the oldest and the youngest. Because there was such an age difference, did you experience that or were y'all relatively close?
Well, growing up, I think we were really pretty close growing up. And I kind of also grew up with my nieces and nephews
Mm,
because I was so young and I was the last child. But no, growing up, after church, you'd see this group of people, you'd see about 15, 20 people going to eat at a restaurant together. We were very close. We supported each other, activities and things of that nature. I just think it kind of shifted when people started to kind of step outside of the comfort zone, being me,
mm.
deciding to go to college, deciding to be different. And at times some people may think, you kind of think, do you think you're better because you're educated? And that never was the case, but it was kind of hard for others to kind of accept. Of course, the first degree, yes, that's great. That's what we wanted. That's wonderful. The second one, okay, yeah, I see you. The third, you're doing too much. Now, you
Mm,
didn't need all those extra pieces of papers and letters
mhm.
behind your name. You should have stopped and just did what you need to do, but you went too far. So we started out very strong, very supportive, and then in life, people change and they grow and they evolve.
Okay, I'm definitely want to get into that later. I definitely want to get into that dynamic of the relationships changing as you becoming not only older, but you progressing on in life because you are a first generation grad. But before we get into that,
Mhm.
You did face some challenges when you were younger. Can you tell my audience a little bit about the challenges you faced as you were that when you were younger and how that shaped you as the person that you are today?
Most definitely. I would say for me personally, I had the Jerry curl and
Mm,
all the juice and the drip drip, and I looked like a little boy. And so it
mhm,
was very difficult for me because I always had low self esteem. I looked at
mhm,
myself as, oh my goodness, why am I always so different? And why do I have to be so dark? And I had to learn to love myself over time. But in addition to that, I grew up in a home that had domestic violence, where I had to
mm,
witness domestic violence. And that was very difficult for me because you're seeing two individuals that you love so much at odds with each other. And so going and navigating through that whenever there were situations that would pop up, again, I was the youngest of the family. So my siblings were off living their life and with their children. And so I would be the one, hey guys, we got to have a family meeting. We need to come back together, figure out how we can solve this problem, how we can support our parents. And so I think going through those problems and those trials and tribulations helped me as I grew into become an adult, go to therapy and learn that, Nicole, you are not where you start. You may
mm,
have come from a dysfunctional household, but you don't have to continue that on and you don't have to accept that. You get to decide the type of life you want to live. And so
yeah,
I've utilized those trials and tribulations and even the moments where I didn't care so much for myself because of my low self esteem to inspire the students and the families that I'm fortunate to work with, to encourage the students that, you don't always have to be like everyone else. You can decide your path in life as long as you have the resources and tools to set you up for success.
yeah. I wanna I'm gonna leave the Jerry curl alone. I'm
Okay.
not gonna I'm not
Please
gonna
don't
touch that.
touch it.
I'm
Yes.
not gonna touch the Jerry curl. But I wanna talk about a couple of things that you said. One, about you talking about, "Why am I so dark?" And
Mhm.
then another thing, because of the age difference of your siblings, obviously, if there was domestic violence in a home and these are your that's everybody's parents, they've seen this. And I want to get what their reaction was when you would say we need to bring the family together. But first, I want to talk about because there are some members of my audience who are not black. They don't understand colorism in the black community. And
Yes.
if you could just share a little bit about what you faced as far as colorism and your background in your past.
Well, I believe that, if you think back to then, I think it was a movie with Spike Lee, and then you had the light-skinned
School
girls, and you had
days.
School Days.
School
Yes,
days, yes.
School Days. And that was just it. That was the
Mhm,
environment that I grew up in. Back in the day, that's what we dealt with. The lighter skinned individuals were perceived to be more attractive to the younger kids during our generation and growing up. And the guys were like, oh, she's yellow. Ooh, all of that. And then you
mhm,
had this dark skin, but I had to overcome that and know, okay, she might be cute to you, but chocolate is sure always in season, baby. And so it took me some time to learn to love myself and
mm,
understand, no, I might not be light skin. No, I might not have long blonde hair, but God created me the way He wanted me to be. And I
mm,
have so much to offer, not to others, but also to myself. And so it took a lot of time for me to look inside and say, Nicole, stop looking for somebody else to say that you're beautiful. Stop looking for somebody else to tell you who you are and start knowing it for yourself. And so I think by going to therapy and I think starting to evolve and then seeing examples of individuals that were dark skinned, that were beautiful and stunning, and that was doing so much, it changed my perspective that, you know what? There's some great things about Nicole, and I need to
yeah.
accept that and be proud of it.
Around what age did you gain this acceptance?
I would say when I went to Grambling State
Okay,
University.
there you go. There you go,
Yes.
HBCU.
Yes, yes. As soon as you got on the yard,
Uh-huh.
everybody confirmed that, oh, okay, yeah, you all right. And
Yeah.
so I was like, wait a minute, okay, this is
Mhm,
how it works. And so then I became Nicole, and I grew into who I was because not only was I struggling with that, but I was accepting it and starting to love myself. But then
mhm.
when all these people on the yard, it was talking and all these friends, I was like, oh, yeah, yeah, okay. And so then I just started to flourish and be very proud of who I was.
It's funny how colorism works in the Black community with men and women, right? Because a
Mhm.
lot of what you're talking about was absolutely true. It's not the case anymore. Like
Yeah.
Meg the Stallion is everybody's
Mhm.
Meg. I'm still here. I'm still waiting. Um, but yes, the school days it was light skins and dark skins and for women.
Yes.
For men,
Mhm.
everybody wanted the dark skinned brother. Nobody wanted the light skinned brother.
Oh,
It was the
okay.
reverse. So,
Uh-huh.
I wasn't always in style.
And yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wasn't always in style. But so let's transition to the domestic violence in your home. Your
Mhm.
experience in that is traumatic because obviously you love your mother. Obviously you love your father. You don't love the fact that your father is hurting your mother.
Correct.
And your siblings are so much older than you. This is obviously something that this isn't a brand new thing that all of a sudden happened. This had to be something that they had been experiencing for decades
Yeah.
prior to you even coming into existence. How did they take it when you came to them to say, "Hey, we need to come together. We need to have a family meeting because this can't be happening."
Some wouldn't show up, but
Mm,
then others were there before I could hang up the phone
mm.
because we were very loving. And not only did I have siblings that was concerned about me in the home, but they were very, of course, like you mentioned, very concerned about our parents. And so we would just sit down and figure out what was going on and how we could support one another through the process.
And ultimately, what came of it?
We would just come up with like when you get upset, these are some things that you should do. Leave the house and maybe make better choices. Mom, we want to take you out for a little while, maybe so you can get some fresh air. But we would just problem solve together as a family so we could make sure all parties involved were okay at the end of the day.
That's good. That's beautiful. So you go to Grambling State. Not only do you go to Grambling State, you go to Grambling State to get your bachelor's degree.
Mhm.
Where'd you get your master's degree?
Grambling State University,
And where'd you get your doctorate?
Texas Southern University.
Okay. So you said that growing up, you and all your siblings were close.
Mhm.
Did some of your other siblings have college degrees? Because you're a first generation. You're the first generation. You and your siblings are the first generation to have degrees. How many other siblings out of the other five got degrees?
Mhm. None.
Okay, so you are the only one. So you have not the one, not the two, but three. So you are not just Nicole, you are now Dr. Nicole. And you said it caused some tension in the siblings. Can you give me a little bit more detail of how and why it caused tension?
Well, just like I think with any family that you have in your dynamics, like I had siblings that attended school, but they didn't finish college. And so, with just any family dynamics, you have individuals
Mhm,
that in your home that you may say, oh, okay, well, that's the bougie aunt or that's the down home aunt. And you sometimes, some people believe education
mhm,
makes you perceive or they have this perception that you think you're better just because you went to college or because you received an education, and that's not always the case. And so there may be situations where we're together and I may speak differently or talk like I've always talked as I was growing up. And oh my goodness, I can't believe you talking like that. And you have a degree. We are still humans and we still make mistakes and we still like
mhm,
to be comfortable. So it was just some of those, just some of the comments. And then, where you think you live, if you think you're better or your job. And that I think sometimes in life, individuals get stuck in where they see where they are and they look at you and
mhm,
that's the belief that they have. It was never the belief that I had.
mhm.
And it wasn't all of my siblings, but I did have siblings that had some concerns and some challenges once I finished my education.
A little resentment.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
And I
Um,
always would say, my parents started from very humble beginnings. And so we all had the exact same opportunity. And it's just what you chose to do
mhm.
with the opportunity you were given.
Dr. Nicole, you brought up an interesting thing that I kind of want to examine about how people's perceptions of what you are, what they are, puts puts kind of people in a box and they can't really see past that. Now, you're from Austin, Texas, which is a big town now, but maybe not so big in the 80s, 90s. Do you think that has a little something to do with it? The reason why I ask is because I lived in a little town in Virginia called Lynchburg, Virginia. And I lived there for a couple of years in middle school and a couple of years in high school, right? And I was in accelerated classes that meant that I was one of the few Black people in all white classes. And I would often get looked at as, "Are you trying to, you think just because you're in those classes that you're better?" It was a small town. When I moved up here to Washington, DC, that was something that was celebrated. "Oh, you're in those classes? Oh, you must be smart. That's cool. You gonna be
Mhm.
something." So the question that I asked is, even though Austin is a big town now, it was a small town back when you were growing up. You think that's a small town thing? Where people from small towns just feel like, "What are you trying to do? Get out of here. Who do you think you are, better?" Because maybe they are not gonna get out?
Yes, but I also think that exists in all cultures and all environment, and I think it more so has to do with the individual and their
Mm.
limiting beliefs. And so those beliefs that they have accepted for their self and they want to apply it to you. But if that applies to you, that's totally fine. But there are no limits to me and where I can go. And so I think it just has to be the individual's mindset and how they perceive the situation.
So this is funny that, this wasn't on purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, this wasn't on purpose. I'm not that good of a host. But you have this concept of the conformity trap that is sacrificing or sparking to meet others' expectations. Can you give me any general examples for the audience of what the conformity trap is? I think we just explained it to you guys, but more general examples, and then how they were directly applied to you.
Well, for me, I think the conformity trap applies a lot to my company, Maintain the Flame, and that's why it was established. So I
Mhm.
would have an opportunity to work with different individuals that feel stuck or that they have to conform to their environment. Because when we were young, we had all this excitement and energy. We would dress any kind of way. We loved life. We didn't care what anyone thought, whatever their perception or their thoughts were about us. We weren't concerned about that. We were going to live life anyway. But then we transition into the real world and we become an adult and we tend to start looking around. So of course, we have that a little bit as children, but then we're adults. Like, should I live in this neighborhood? If I live over here, people think I'm better off. Or if I drive this type of vehicle and things of that nature, or if I'm at work and I nod and say yes to whatever my supervisor says, knowing that it is not the right thing to do, I'll be accepted and I can be promoted. And so I think that when we are individuals and we're going through life, we have to understand and decide what's best for us instead of accepting what the world has decided is best for you. And so if we would do that and stand on our truth, we wouldn't have to worry so much about the conformity trap and trying to be something that you're not. Because at the end of the day, you may do that to fit in, but you still have to go home. You have to
Yeah.
sit with yourself and you have to decide, now, why did I do that? Why did I
Mhm.
say that? I know that wasn't even right. But was it something that was worthy of you compromising who you are just to get that promotion or just to sit at that certain table so you can make that business deal? And is it because over time it's going to cost more than just that position? It's going to cost a piece of who you are and it starts to chip away. And eventually you're going to look in that mirror and say, who in the world am I? I'm
Mhm.
dressing like this. I'm talking like this is not who I am. But are you willing to sell out to fit in?
Was there a time period in your own life where you came to the realization that, I'm not being authentically myself? Who am I right now? What am I doing? Am I conforming? Did you ever have a point where you questioned yourself and that's how you created this concept and also the branding, Maintain Your Flame?
Well, yes, a lot of that started when I was in college and when I was younger, because I've always been different. And I always gravitated to the underdog or the individuals that were overlooked or undervalued. That's where my passion has always been. But I would go to school and, everybody has their thing that just wasn't my thing. And I remember one of the first parties I went to when I was at Grambling back in the day. And you go into the party and everybody's just passing stuff around. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, ma'am, no, this is not the place for Nicole. Because number one, the way I was raised. And number two, I just didn't feel right. I was like, what
Mhm.
am I doing? And so I called my mom all the way back in Austin. And I said, I need you to help me find a ride back to the yard. I can't be
Mhm.
here. And she was like, what is wrong with you? Just have fun. No, ma'am, I need to get out of here. And she
Mhm.
understood and she was able to help me find a friend from Austin that picked me up and took me back home. But I knew that something just didn't sit right in my spirit. So if
Mhm.
I didn't ever want to put myself in a situation where I would regret at a later moment. So that worked for them, but it didn't work for me. And so then transitioning and getting married, you have my favorite movie is Meet the Fockers. I love that movie where he talks
It's a
about
good
you're not
movie.
in the end circle. And so
Mhm.
with my in-laws, I love them and I love my family when I first got married, but we have traditions. We have things that we do, and you're not doing those, Nicole. Well, I want to have my own family. I want to start my own
Mm.
tradition, and that can ruffle a couple of feathers. And then moving
Mhm.
into the work world, individuals being overlooked, students not being treated fairly, and having to speak up in those meetings, and everybody's looking like, I'm thinking it, but why are you saying it? And it was just
Mm.
something that said with me that I have to speak up because if I don't, who will? And so dealing with a lot of those situations in life, it just always let me know, Nicole, you may be different, but it's okay. But you must maintain your flame for life because you'll have this flame that you're born with on the inside. But then you go into these different situations and we allow them to say, oh, let me dim my flame when I'm around them because, they don't want to hear that. Or let me
Mhm.
dim my flame when I walk into this meeting because I don't want to start any problems and, I don't want them looking at me. But I have to maintain that flame. Even when it's not popular, even when people don't want to hear it, I have to stand in my truth and know that I deserve better and I'm here for a reason. And I have to be passionate about the things I do so that I can make a difference in the lives of others.
So maintain the flame is almost like a mantra, but it's also a company that you are in charge of. Can you tell my audience a little bit about Maintain the Flame?
The Flame is a company designed to help you live an audaciously authentic life. So you get to show up and be authentic with who you are. And so what I do is I connect with individuals, being that I've been in the field of education. I connect with students, I connect with parents to help them navigate, and just people that are having some difficulties in life in general. I want to be that cheerleader for you. I want to be your accountability partner and hold you accountable to the goals and the dreams that you have for yourself so you can design a life that you desire and you can live with no regrets.
Mm, I like that. And what's the type of apparel that you sell, and what is everything that people can buy?
You can buy anything from greeting cards to hoodies to backpack. And the backpacks mirror the individuals that we work with. So you'll see all types of diversity, individuals
Mm.
that may be overlooked or not represented. And then
Mm.
you'll also have an opportunity if you visit the store to purchase my book, My Soul is Not for Sale, Removing the Lies, the Labels, and the Limitations.
See, look, this is perfect transition because I wanted to talk about the book next. So, your book, My Soul is Not for Sale. Can you tell my audience a little bit about the book and
Now,
how did you get to the point where you were going to write the book?
life. When you go
Mm.
through so many trials and tribulations, and I keep running into these brick walls, the lessons that I had to learn, I had to understand those lessons were not just for you, Nicole. And when I talk to people, I know some people may say, oh my goodness, she's embarrassing her family or she's embarrassing herself. I can't believe she shared all of that. Well, I believe the trials and the tribulations and the lessons in life that we go through is to help somebody else. And so there's no disrespect or anything negative, but I want people to know that you are not alone. You are not the only person going through things and you can overcome. And so My Soul is Not for Sale talks about being resilient in the workplace, in your relationships, and in life in general. And it gives you lots of examples of individuals that have been whistleblowers with companies or people that have struggled to tell the truth and stand up for what's right. And it gives people examples to let them know it's okay to speak up. Now, it will come with a cost and there are consequences. But at the end of the day, if you're leaving that place and that environment better than the way that you arrived, then everyone around you would be better off for it. And so in the book, I talk about the flush method. I had a sister that was 48 years old at the time. She passed away abruptly, and she was in a car accident. But whenever I had issues in life, she would always tell me, Nicole, if you're dealing with anything, I want you to go and get a piece of toilet tissue. You don't necessarily have to do that part, but I want you to write down everything that you're going through. But while you're writing it down, I want you to talk about the good and the bad in the situation. But most importantly, I want you to focus on your role in that situation. And after
Mm,
you deal with the situation, I want you to ball it up and toss it. The flesh method is facing life's uncomfortable situations so you can heal. Because if you don't
mm,
deal with the situations you're facing, you're going to carry those problems, that trauma, that anger, that bitterness onto the next relationship, onto the next job, or whatever it may be. So the flesh method allows you to review the situation, be accountable for your actions, and move forward.
that is, I am a huge fan of accountability. Accountability, accountability, accountability. Because the thing that bothers me the most in life are hypocrites, and typically hypocrites don't hold themselves accountable. That it bothers me. So the method is really dope. How can somebody, they read your book, they follow these methods. Maybe it registers, maybe it doesn't register. What is that smack in the face to wake people up to let them know, hey, you need some help? Because there are people out here that have trauma who ignore it, who say they don't have trauma. I know of a person that's a sibling of a friend of mine that said they don't believe in therapy. You don't need therapy. And I said, what? That's one of the dumbest things I think I've ever heard of. You go to a doctor to
Exactly.
fix your
Yes.
physical ailment. Why wouldn't you go to a doctor to fix your mental and emotional ailment? So, what is the thing that can smack people and wake them up to let them realize, hey, you got some trauma that you can't just say, I'm over it. You have to deal with it.
I think when individuals lose things that are important to them, when you hit
Mhm,
rock bottom or you're in a relationship and someone walks away that means so much to you, or a job that you really enjoyed, your mask starts to slip or you're not fitting in, and that feeling that you get on the inside, that should trigger, hey, you need to fix this because it
mhm,
can't be everybody else around you. You need to look internally so you can stop walking and running into the same brick walls that you're dealing with. And it's okay to deal with your issues. And you don't have to announce it to the world that I'm going to get help and I've been going to a therapist, but take that and make it a priority for you and your family so that you're able to heal and you can be healthy for yourself and those that are around you.
yeah. You wear a lot of hats, a lot of hats. You have many diverse roles. You're a professor, you're a campus principal, you're an author, an educator, an entrepreneur. How do you maintain wearing so many hats and maintain your audacious authenticity with maintaining all of those hats?
I stay connected to the word, and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ has always been important to me. I know I always use the analogy with some of us, we have that cell phone, and we're not going to let that cell phone die. We'll charge that phone up, but you can leave the car key, you can leave your purse, your wallet, you can leave everything else, but you're not going to leave that cell phone. And so that's become for me my word of God. I've got to charge in every single day because if I don't have enough charge, I'm not going to be able to maintain my flame. And it's through my good and my bad times.
Mm,
And so I just encourage people, if you have become discouraged or you get to a point that, you're not loving life and you're not excited about your experiences, charge up to someone else. Number one, reach out and get into your word, but there might be a friend or someone else that can help reignite your flame and remind you of the potential you have and who you are so that you can continue to live the life that you desire.
So, as I was saying, you have so many diverse roles. And, I went through a lot of them. Your speaker, author, the educator part, I want to kind of focus on now. What lessons have you learned, varied experiences that you've experienced that have taught you about leadership and the importance of education that that's important in empowering the future generations?
For me, with leadership, it's all about relationships and working with our students to understand that we are here to build relationships with you and for you to learn from your mistakes. Sometimes maybe in the past, when we make mistakes, it was punitive and you would be ashamed for it. But in the leadership roles that I've been fortunate to be in, I want my students to be able to grow from the experiences that they have and walk away with some lifelong lessons that they can apply. So I've always been a very strong servant leader. I put the needs of my students, my staff, my faculty before my own because you never know. Those kids, our kids nowadays, and I know a lot of people may say negative things about them and what they're going through, but it is so hard to be a child nowadays. You
Mhm.
have distractions from that cell phone, you have social media every corner you turn. How can you not compare your body and your image and your thoughts to everybody else that's online? And so, with all the distractions, it's easy for them to question themselves. And they're still trying to figure out who I am, trying to compare myself to this woman that's on this Instagram, and also trying to learn and making sure that they're trying to fit in the same bout. So, for me, it's just connecting with those babies, letting them know that someone believes in them, being an advocate for them, being a voice for them, but at the same time, applying tough love. And that's the advice that I give to parents that I encounter
Mm.
because I know we want to be friends because some of us may have had it hard as a child. I know I was raised that kids are seen and not heard. Don't get in
Mm.
grown folks' business, but we have got to check on our children. And it's important that we're not only just saying, how was your day? Sit down and have a conversation with them. And I know this is not popular. Go through those cell phones, check their backpacks, find out who their friends are. And I know that people may say, well, they're in middle school or high school now. They really don't need you. That's when they need you the most. So be connected, be concerned, and be an advocate for your baby. No cell phone should be raising your child. No teacher should be telling you what's best for your child. You brought them into this world. It is your responsibility to be an advocate for them each and every day.
Yeah, this younger generation, I agree with the fact that they have it rougher. I just
Yeah.
had a conversation with my sister, and it's funny because they say that every generation, the next generation is always worse than the last generation, and the behavior and things of that nature. And I said, no,
Right.
I don't think that's necessarily the case. We were bad too. It's just everything is more visible because of technology. But I said, what these
Yes.
young kids have now is they have more emotional intelligence than we ever did. And
Yeah.
I think in some ways, and I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, and I want to hear your perspective on this. In some ways, some of these kids are more emotionally intelligent than their parents. And it might be tough
Mhm.
for their parents to have those type of conversations because they just didn't develop that emotional intelligence because we were taught to be seen, not heard.
Mhm. Yeah, I do agree, but that's where we have to go. We're gonna have to step out our comfort zone. There are things that you'll do for your baby, but in addition to that, you're still gonna have to be able to know when your kids are wrong, to be able to let them know they're wrong and help them to learn from that.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I've run into so many situations in schools, and the parent, I don't listen to her, and if she tells you that, tell her to call me. You're not helping your child. That's not being a parent. Your children need to understand to respect adults. You may not like that teacher. That is totally fine. But you teach your child You respect your teacher, you stay in your place, let me know what's going on, and I will handle the situation. But I think we get so caught up in our emotions, and I want to give this baby everything that I didn't have, and I'm going to defend them no matter what, but we're sending the wrong message. So then
Mhm.
when they go to school and they disrespect that teacher and go off because my mama doesn't like you, and the principal calls and you need to come have a conversation, you're confused as to why are we in here? Well, look at the
Mhm.
example that you've been living and look at what you taught your child and how you taught your child to handle a situation. So, parenting, we all know that is the good and the bad and the ugly, but we have to be there to tell our kids when they're right and when they're wrong.
That's that accountability that you were talking about. Everybody needs to be accountable, not just
Yeah.
the kids, but also the parents.
Mhm.
Everybody needs to be accountable.
Yes.
Dr. Nicole, what does the future hold for you?
There are so many great things. I'm just going to go ahead and speak it into existence. Everyone is
Do it.
going to know maintain the flame. They're going to be
Mhm.
so excited about maintain the flame. I'm going to travel to so many countries and all over the United States, positively impacting families, students, companies, so we can reignite that positive flame in our society. So many negative things are going on, and so many people choose to be silent instead of speaking up. You know, back in the day when kids would act up in the store and my mama would correct them, and I'm looking like, oh my goodness. Now I find myself doing that years and years later, but there are so many people that won't do that because, oh, that's not my child. I'm not going to get involved with that. But we need
Mhm.
more of that in our communities. We need to love on each other. We need to keep each other in our prayers and in our thoughts and keep each other encouraged. But most importantly, maintain our flame for life.
I love that. I love that. Let's plug your book one more time and where they can get it.
My soul is not for sale. I'm on social media. So you can DM me there and I can get you a copy of the book, or you can go to my website, www.maintaintheflame.net, and
All right.
Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, all the things.
All the things, all the things. Dr. Nicole, I want to thank you for coming on the show and just telling us about your life, how living audaciously authentic is how you do it and how everybody should be doing it. And more importantly, not falling into that conformity trap and holding ourselves accountable. I think my audience really, really learned something. And that would make sense coming from two educators. That would make sense. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Well, thank you for the opportunity and continue your great work. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Authenticity isn't a trend, it's a rebellion. Whether it's ditching societal masks or calling out injustice at work or maintaining your flame, it all means refusing to let others extinguish your truth. In our conversation with Dr. Bradford, she helped us realize how society can trap us and how we can break those societal chains. She took us from being the youngest miracle baby in a big Texas family through the shadows of colorism and domestic violence, all the way to earning her doctorate and founding a movement dedicated to authenticity and accountability. We heard how witnessing family hardship didn't break her, it fueled her. How struggling with self worth and community divided by shade led her to embrace every hue of her identity. How the flush method offers a roadmap to confront and then release our deepest hurts. How our conformity trap tempts us to dim our flame for acceptance and trap she committed to help us all escape. Dr. Bradford reminded us that leadership begins with relationships, that we owe ourselves and those we guide the gift of tough love and honest conversations. As an educator and a campus principal, she champions emotional intelligence in our children, holding them and their parents accountable in the name of growth. Pick up her book, My Soul is Not for Sale, wherever books are sold, Barnes& and Noble, Amazon, or directly through her website at maintaintheflame.net. Join the Maintain the Flame community on Instagram and Facebook for daily inspiration, apparel that celebrates your unique spark and opportunities to work with Dr. Bradford herself. Let's not forget that we all have a light that's inside of us, and that light can shine brightest and help other people. You never know what you say in passing, what you do in passing, how that can affect their lives for the rest of their lives, or maybe just a day. But regardless, a single moment, a single interaction can help a person. Hell, it can even help you. I remember I was in a tough situation. I'm not going to get into specifics, but I was walking my dog. This is when he was still alive, young pup. I had to walk him for a long time. And I guess the worry and stress was on my face because, I mean, I wear my emotions on my face. Everybody knows what I'm thinking. I don't have a poker face. This complete stranger walks up to me and says, everything is going to be okay. God loves you. Now, whether you're religious, spiritual, or not, at that moment, that's what I needed to hear. That's what I needed to hear. That gave me a wind in my sails to let me know, hey, Bruce, what you're going through right now, we'd have been here before. You don't always got your way through it. You'll get through this just like you always do. Take a deep breath and move forward. And it was a single moment. Never saw that lady again. Don't know who she was. Don't even know if she lived in the neighborhood because I was walking the dog in my neighborhood. Don't know. But at that moment, at that time, with the immense amount of stress and anxiety that I had because I was going through some things, that moment changed me. Did it change me for the rest of my life? I mean, no. I still think about that moment, and that moment had to have happened 10 to 12 years ago. It was a long time ago when that moment happened. So just remember, everybody has a light. You can inspire great things in people just in passing. And the most important thing, not only can you inspire others, but you can inspire yourself. Don't forget that light helps you keep going. Don't let others dim your flame. Your flame burns bright. We all have a purpose of being here. Some of us know exactly what that purpose is. Some of us don't know what that purpose is. And sometimes we might not find out what that purpose is, but we did have a purpose and we have helped. The world will be a better place because of our interactions with each other when we treat people with kindness. And when we hold ourselves to the accountability of our own actions. That's another thing that's very, very important. Another thing I took from Dr. Nicole's story. We have to maintain some type of accountability for ourselves. I was dating a young lady many years ago, and she was always quick to tell somebody else about their faults and their flaws. Quick. When they did something that she didn't like, quick to tell them. Now, I didn't face this wrath hardly ever because I'm easygoing and I don't be doing too much. You know what I'm saying? But when it did get directed to me, I had to check her. Case in point, one time she was cooking something and she loved to make ethnic food. And sometimes ethnic food, looks kind of gross. Okay. And so I started scrunching up my face as she was starting to eat it. She was like, don't do that. Don't do that. That makes me feel bad about this and that and everything that I'm eating, and just don't do that. And I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. I'm wrong for that. No more than a month or two later, I made something for myself. And she started doing the exact same thing that I did to her. And I checked her. I said, look, you called me on it when I did it to you. Don't do the same thing that I did to you to me. And she was like, you're right. You're right. She didn't have that self accountability. I had to show her, look, you need to hold yourself accountable just like you hold other people accountable. And I would routinely do that with her when she was checking other people. I'm like, hey, look, you be doing the same stuff. You need to check yourself before you wreck yourself. Accountability, especially in what's going on in today's world. A lot of people aren't taking accountability for the things that they say or do. Notice that if you don't take accountability for the things that you say to do towards others, you could be dimming their flame. And do you want to be the dimmer? Is that who you want to be? Dr. Nicole opened my eyes to a lot of things within myself as well. I learned a lot from this, and I hope that y'all got just as much out of it as I did. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for watching. And until next time, as always, I'll holla. Woo, that was a hell of a show. Thank you for rocking with us here on Unsolicited Perspectives with Bruce Anthony. Now, before you go, don't forget to follow, subscribe, like, comment, and share our podcast wherever you're listening or watching it to it. Pass it along to your friends. If you enjoy it, that means the people that you rock will enjoy it also. So share the wealth, share the knowledge, share the noise. And for all those people that say, well, I don't have a YouTube. If you have a Gmail account, you have a YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can actually watch our video podcast and YouTube exclusive content. But the real party is on our Patreon page, After Hours Uncensored and Talking Straight-ish. After Hours Uncensored is another show with my sister. And once again, the key word there is uncensored. Those are exclusively on our Patreon page. Jump onto our website at unsolicitedperspective.com for all things us. That's where you can get all of our audio, video, our blogs, and even buy our merch. And if you really feel generous and want to help us out, you can donate on our donations page. Donations go strictly to improving our software and hardware so we can keep giving you guys good content that you can clearly listen to and that you can clearly see. So any donation would be appreciative. Most importantly, I want to say thank you for listening and watching and supporting us. And I'll catch you next time. Audi 5000. Peace.